Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. What a wonderful Wednesday. Outside, the rain and the wet. What a weather that you want to sit and curl in your favorite hammock under your porch. For me, it would be a nice book and a glass of coconut water, knowing that my brother's got some fish tea running. Oh boy, such a good afternoon, eh? Well, we can live in hope and expectation. 949-8837, 1-800-534-8255. Want to keep my company? Won't pay you for it, but the reward is great. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email Talk Today at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us. And open the salvo. Will be some open line, 12:30. We'll have some slated and scheduled. We'll see what that looks like if it happens. Because it's rain, you never know. Some wish to sing the song, the rain, rain, go away. Well, come back another day. Well, the rest of us would say, rain, let's get it on. Talking, singing, and smiling. The rain is a blessing from on high, so we give much thanks for it. There's a lot, the older generation would say, it beats down the dust. It would water the weeds as the plants. But what's on your mind? 949-8837, 1-800-534-TALK. The Flow toll-free call, 1-800-534-8255. Or 949-8837. Of course, you can WhatsApp, 925-3261, and share your thoughts with us. I can imagine many are reading, listening, following what's happening in the region. Even some of the favorite places that we like to travel to see what's happening. And wondering, will the reindeer take flight come Christmas Eve? Or will it have to quarantine as well? Did it get its vaccinations? Will there be still a Christmas? Well, Christmas is in the heart and spirit is to be celebrated. So what are your thoughts relative to our opening? Had an interesting discussion earlier with someone, and the fellow was relaying that, isn't it interesting when two things happen? Someone say, well, I don't mean to be offensive. Yeah, then what proceeds out of the mouth isn't complimentary. And then the politicians, well, we should make it politics. But then everything else seems to be politically motivated. Always expedient, always seeming to, undermine somehow. And he was saying that and I trust that my perception of him is as the same you would share. A man of his word. If he said he did it, he did it. If he said he's going to do it, he's going to do it. If he said that he told a politician this, then more than likely the way he tells you is probably somewhat sanitized as he speaks his mind. But he said he had a conversation with a few of them recently and said, can you boys put on your big pants and walk and talk, holding hands together? This is when the country needs, a greater sense of national unity and leadership, and start playing games like spoiled children in a play yard, and you can't get your way, so you pick up your marbles and you run home. We laughed at the way he expressed with such, passionate and almost, as he said, almost incensed about how things are transpiring from every perspective. Especially, he says, knowing that the little cool breeze blowing, you can get a little taste of what Christmas be like, and yet we're still finding people playing politics with other people's livelihoods. And now I wonder if I am in fact relaying the way he has in fact shared, but I wonder if you would give us a perspective. Mr. Alice McKeever over the Brack has been a long champion for freedoms, not just expressing it, but asking, why is it that we haven't matured to a sense of being appreciative of the things that are growing in nature if they have medicinal values. Or we allow others to be able to act almost with impunity in certain regards, but we punish and penalize many others for imbibing. So what is that thing that you think needs to be aired, and through so doing will cause others to likewise take up the mantle and champion certain causes? Take, for instance, we talk about when there are those people asking that certain accesses to the beach is, for instance, that they are protected and preserved, but yet when there seems to be a challenge, how many of us draw alongside to support? When people question, well, is this the interpretation and application of the law, both the spirit, the letter and the spirit of the law, isn't exactly what was intended? Who then, knowing better, steps and offers assistance? Some of us could easily, with a phone call, write things. Some of us with a stroke of a pen, have things corrected, whether that is to sign the signature and name to something that lends weight, offer up financial assistance, or just undo something that has for too long been an injustice. We often share, as Burke has reminded us, evil prevails when good men do nothing. Well, maybe it's the case that too many have been disquieted for too long, that now the growing discord and disharmony is leading to the ever-present division amongst us. Is something that has always been expected, anticipated, and even encouraged. But to those who may benefit in the short term financially or in some other way, may end up not realizing that they're doing themselves a greater disservice as the years sort of pass, and especially as future generations come into their own. So the question is, how do we work together to acknowledge the injustices and correct the woes that we face? How do we work together to ensure there's a greater sense of unity, a strengthened community, greater sense of safety, stability, and security? And how do we do that where people don't look at us as being naive in our noble endeavors, being altruistic sometimes for some is seen as an ulterior motive by others? It's probably one and the same. Big benefactor writes a large check, donates something of value, only to have been, immediately following the recipient of some greater, reward. Gone are the days people do it because they can, because they want to, and they seek nothing, in this realm. No praise, no accolades, no statues or other signs of accomplishment, other than that good feeling within that they've done something great that benefits all. So let's test the phones. Let's see if there is amongst us the Daniels as well as the Esthers, those with courage and conviction who are prepared to stand in the gap. The other day, we have, perhaps like many places, can easily look to many in our society and recognize that they give much thought to what is before them. Some as a gesture of assistance, as a display of their acumen, would say, well, here is a particular piece of legislation that a certain government should consider. And, while having a a glass of coconut water. Maybe they mixed themselves a little beverage, a little swanky. Perhaps they were kind enough to share it with somebody else. They may put pen to paper and scratch what they think an amendment to legislation, or they might try to write, even using the whereases and the wherefores, and be therefore resolved hereinafter, before following all the way the legalese writes, and makes it sometimes peculiar to some and others a bit of a put off. But they may decide, what if the government undertook to propose legislation or amend existing legislation? But we don't need to be so fancy in our thought processes, as long as we are truthful and are willing to share our intellect, our ambitions, so that it benefits the majority. Well, your thoughts. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. And if you wish to share, perhaps others have similar concerns, maybe you need to admonish more of us so that we are more inclined to do the right thing. Maybe it's that something isn't, in your view, the right thing, not and simply because loud voices or seemingly a large group is championing these things, don't mean that they're right. Doesn't necessarily mean that the majority is wrong either. But that lone voice sometimes is the only voice of reason crying, and it should not cry alone. It should be sounding, that clarion call for others to heed. But what was it that our parents and grandparents told us? You can't hear, but you can feel. Well, it wasn't that they intended to discipline you like that. And they were saying that there's a consequence to your actions. And if you're not willing to heed the counsel, benefit from their great wisdom, then sometimes you'll have to find out for yourself directly. Many times, I think they allowed that to transpire because they knew the consequence would teach a valuable lesson, but its impact would not have been something that would have caused you to be, so damaged that it can't, be repaired. So we're going to pause in a second, and after the break, I want you to join us for a discussion. On our calendar, the schedule is talking about hurricanes and the role of the CERT program. Now that's the Community Emergency Response Teams. I think, as I understand the intent of seeing it in practice, I've become a strong proponent. It strengthens the community, helps to build, resilience, it helps to build capacity. It allows us to understand the resources within our communities. We get to know our neighbors, not just what they do, but who they are. And that builds and fosters stronger community ties, those bonds that really bring us together. It also allows for a sense of neighborhood togetherness. If you want to say neighborhood crime watch, well, you know your neighbor, you know what's happening. It also allows the community to be able to respond, not just when there's a disaster, for instance, a natural disaster like a hurricane or the like, some other weather system, but also to respond if there is something in the community. Remember the days when there was illness or death in the communities, and the community came alongside. Food wasn't an issue, even though you didn't feel like eating. You know that your neighbor, brought over something to share, and you didn't have to worry about preparing. Well, I think the CERTs can do much, without the need, for some other level of training that probably isn't much useful unless you are on what in my day was called the front line, referring to war specifically. And especially as we go into Remembrance Day, appreciating those freedoms are important. So as we pause and take the break, we'd like you to be a part of our next discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Subway, we caramel a lot about our customers, so we decided to give you 2 treats in one with the new Caramel Apple Cookie. Enjoy cinnamon apples, caramel bits, and salted caramel crunch baked in, and topped with a drizzle of caramel-flavored icing. Gooey, crunchy, and yummy. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious Caramel Apple Cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert, available for a limited time at all Subway locations. Subway, eat fresh.
Freedom, Cayman Rock. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Come on, Cayman. Let's get ready to reopen. Countries all over the world are proving life can go on and we can safely coexist with COVID-19 in our community. With open borders, our readiness will be vital to protect each other and our islands. We can do this. Have your voice heard and pledge you are ready to safely reopen. Visit reopencayman.com. Join the movement and pledge that you are ready to reopen on November 20.
Do you know how well your pension plan performed? Attend the Chamber Pension Plan's annual general meeting to stay informed and find out how you can achieve your desired retirement lifestyle. Members are invited to meet our trustees and take part in our question and answers segment on 1st December 2021 at 6:30 p.m. at the Chamber of Commerce Boardroom in Governors Square. Refreshments will be served. Please visit our website chamberpension.ky or email admin@pensions.ky for further details. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you.
FedEx Delivery. Share this season with everyone by shipping your rum cakes and gifts with 30% off and get an additional 20% on your next shipment. Visit us. Restrictions apply.
The 8:10 a.m. weather report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listener participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. And welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, some days, I tell you, man, if you don't have a great sense of humility, respect, and dignity, and love for each other, you know, you would be quickly reminded if you get to associate yourself with the fine gents that we have in our room, and to see the diligence that is within the civil service. So I'm honored to be able to welcome the opportunity to talk about the excellent work over at Hazard Management. And gents, as I welcome you to the discussion, just quickly want to publicly acknowledge the Director General over at the National Weather Service, Mr. John Tibbetts, who's urgently called away and can't join us this afternoon. So the 4 nights would have been, I would just be the facilitator, but we could be the 3 musketeers instead. How about that?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming across, and I like your colleague, Mr. Arecido, your duties, obligations are paramount, and it takes precedence. So thanks for taking some time. For our listeners, though, maybe we could just start as a brief intro, a discussion. I feel sometimes to appreciate it just because not everybody knows, but then it gives the news people a good soundbite, an extra voice that they can hear and go, hey, that sounds familiar. So, Mr. Warner, I always say I will start with you first, but you reminded me of being respectful to hierarchy. So let's do it properly. And then, of course, you could have used the most handsome in the room, but we'll leave him for last.
We'll fight over that one. Maybe not.
Hey, hands down, he wins. Close your eyes, are good and squint.
There you go.
Right. But no, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on board. And as we talk about it, let's appreciate that the date on the calendar is just a date. We know that hurricanes in particular could extend much more, but there are other weather systems and disasters. So we talk about hazard management and the logistics. But Mr. Deputy Director, good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for coming on board. If you would, just give a brief intro, and I'll ask Mr. Runner, you do that next, and then so that people can see this is who we have, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. Well, firstly, thank you very much for inviting us. It's always a pleasure, obviously. My name is David Broughton. I'm Deputy Director, Head of Operations, Response and Recovery at Hazard Management. which is a fantastic position. I've been here since March, and either side of me I have two of the top team members, my logistics and my operations managers. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Yes, good morning. Lennox Vernon, logistics and telecommunications.
Hey, Dwayne. Nice to see you. Always smiling when I'm around.
Thank you.
So my name is Adan. I'm logistics and operation, and I'm under David. And I said we both started around the same time, and we're happy to be here.
I sometimes look and I think you think back to your mothers, and she say a spoonful of honey make the medicine go down that much easier. And the laughter, once it's sincere, they welcome an invitation in a hospital of nature for many. Easy. But when I look at your work, the seriousness of it, the acumen, the discipline, and maybe as a community we start to appreciate as we think of careers as parents in instructing their children, as teachers and guiding them as possible options as they could explore. I like them to consider disaster preparedness as a management, not just core government, but specifically the skill sets that you bring, the disciplines, the ability to be able to bring people to the table so that they respond in a calm, civilized, a very, very immediate sense when there's an urgency, but also to appreciate that you are giving great service and value to your community using that skill set. Mr. Warner, telecoms, for instance, and coming from, I guess emergency comms before to where you are. It translates for some, but that doesn't relate. But easily now you can see how it paired with your upward progression.
Yeah, it works really well. The difference for me in the sense that I'm coming from a different environment, so telecommunications would be a benefit for the department. However, our call center isn't always active at hazard management, so it's activated generally whenever the NEOC is. Now we are in a bit of a different atmosphere because we have the community spread, so as a result we stood up a call center for the isolation support. So along with other team members within the department, I'm assisting with that. But, quite a different environment for me. I've enjoyed it for the time that I've been there, and I'm so happy that these two young gentlemen are there.
I see that reviews are coming up soon. And the year pretty soon. No, just kidding. No, but that camaraderie that you share, that banter, it helps to make the work in the environment, because David, operations and logistics, trying to respond in one instance to a physical disaster. God forbid a hurricane has passed, there is noticeable damage, people are a bit sort of unsettled. You have a physical thing to respond to. In this instance now, there isn't anything physical other than the presence of people properly attired, trying to deal with the anxieties that we may experience. So coordinating that relative to, or say versus even, coordinating the preparation for hurricane and its aftermath. Similar sort of?
Yeah, most definitely. I think, I think the best thing about this particular job is, for me personally, and I'm sure the guys would agree, it never really feels like a job. I think we all move into emergency management for a variety of different reasons, but I think primarily because we want to help the community. We're here to serve the community, and I think we all get a great deal out of that. It's not a 9-to-5 job. The team put in a massive amount of work out with the normal 9-to-5 hours per day, and I think what's important is you need to get on. There needs to be a bit of banter. There needs to be a good laugh, and I think you can learn so much from different people. My background was emergency services. I came from the fire and rescue service, and moved as I moved through that. Obviously worked in various different locations in various different countries, and I find working here it's exactly the same sort of buzz, the same sort of feel. There's a tremendous amount of experience and a tremendous amount of knowledge within the team, and that sort of, for want of a better word, that sort of cross-fertilisation of knowledge and that sort of learning from others, and always trying to do the best by, the people that we're here to serve. I think it's important for all of us.
As I was listening to David, quickly message from one of our WhatsApps. I ordered lunch earlier, so not to worry. It's on its way. And for those who are listening, I think that this sort of shares a paraphrase quickly. It's talking about the expanded role of hazard management, referencing earlier the notion of how we had the National Hurricane. NHC, I guess that's the National Hurricane. I suspect this person is probably my age, quite young, so don't have that expression. Judging by text speak, probably younger.
Yes.
And asking, what sort of, if it's possible, what sort of career trajectory is there within hazard management, and what sort of training would someone have, in order to get into it? Now, as they were typing, you were talking about coming from the fire service.
Yes.
And we can see that. And I'm going to infer from what this person has written that, picking up on what I said earlier, we just need to tell our children, hey, great to become doctors, lawyers, and accountants, but those skill sets can also transfer into other areas, not necessarily be specific to those professions. So if we could maybe somewhat guide this person at some point, you come into the field, bring this, and this is what you will be looking at.
I think so. I mean, I think I've worked with lots of different teams and in various places, like I said, both within the UK and the States and in the Middle East. And ultimately, HMCI, we're about emergency planning. That's what we're here to do. We're here to prepare, we're here to mitigate, ready to respond, and the associated recovery elements. And emergency planning, you can come into that field from a variety of different sort of ways. I always feel that a good way to get into that, if you're interested in sort of supporting, helping your community in a fascinating job, one day is never the same as another. It really isn't. And during an incident, it is amazing. It really is to be that involved and to make that difference. Mm-hmm. I think as a younger person coming into it, I would always recommend that volunteer for things. Mm-hmm. Volunteer, get into voluntary organisations that work within the community. You mentioned CERT teams earlier. Yeah. That's another avenue. Yeah. Come and speak to ourselves. The team are always happy to tell you everything that we do and what we do. We take internships in. Lionel is going to be taking an intern.
Yes.
And passing on that valuable information. But yeah, I think and obviously as well as that, there are vocational qualifications that are necessary. You need that level of understanding, that level of knowledge on emergency management, emergency planning, disaster, crisis management, which we've all at some point. Len's just come back from the States. He's been on a course. Dan's done various other courses. He's at the moment in time enrolled in Napier University in Edinburgh, and his Bournemouth University who do disaster management qualifications. So, but yeah, at the early stages, look for your own community. Look what you can get involved in, and make that start.
Right, and I appreciate your reference in the source, and maybe we'll come back, get some comments from you as well. And I want more of us to appreciate, as you were sharing, that level of service, that level of volunteering, but it's also the potential of careers. We're seeing increasingly more people taking up, studies that sort of benefit society as opposed to just a particular profession, even with their skill sets. And then we can talk about it so that people appreciate that this is, as you said, not a 9-to-5 job. It's not one Monday through Friday, but then there are also other factors that require constant attention.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to coming into the specialized area, it's not about the money. It's about what you have inside and what's the motive behind it. Like you have the initial drive to help people, families, communities, whatever. That's the true, not to say the true definition, but the stem of all your goal, where you want to be.
Right.
And perfect example, like all of us have emergency services background. I have fire, EMS, telecommunications. We all have that urge to help the community, and we all started somewhere. And like what David said, having the certs, volunteering, raising your hand up, saying, I want to try it out. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to fail. That's one thing that a lot of people here are scared to do.
Yeah. So failure is just an example of, try something else.
Yes, try something else. And I read a book over the weekend saying that if you try something, you're not failing from the first step. You're failing. You're going to learn from that past experience, and you're going to be on the second step learning. So going back, if you want to get into this field, don't be scared of failing. Strive, volunteer, raise your hand. ask questions. Like what Dave said, we're a department that wants to share all the knowledge that we have. We realize that, hey, we're not going to be here forever. And our goal here coming into this department is to leave it better than we actually found it.
Just like we should with our societies. Huh? All right, quick break to take. When we come back, I want to continue, certainly ensure that the platform is available for you to share with our listeners so they get informed and use your time as effectively and efficient as you wish. All right, join us after the break, please.
Savannah Pharmacy. Shop local and get a head start on your Christmas shopping. For ladies' handbags, clothes, shoes, fragrance, candles, and cosmetics with the newest Farmhouse Fresh line of skincare. For the gentlemen, clothes, shoes, fragrances, gift sets, and toys and games for the kids. Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs. And convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
Stay clean, stay safe, hey man. Reflection sells gallons of sanitizer for only $25. Buy 2 clip-on sanitizers for just $5. Reflections has the best KN95 masks or reusable cloth masks, and you can get 2 for only $5. Blue surgical masks and face shields are available for children and adults, as well as 10 and 50 packs of black surgical masks. Volume discounts available at Reflections, Jose's Rubus, Reflections Hemp and Tobacco, all 5 Liquor for Less locations, and Food for Less, open 24 hours every day. Don't miss the Liquor for Less incredible priced better markdown. Hundreds of fine from $2.99. Cases of ice cold below wholesale prices. Save $10 off liters of absolute exclusively at Liquor for Less. Prices so low we can't say them on the radio.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
We think it's time you crossed over to a new vehicle. And with the 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross now at Vamp Motors, you have plenty of reasons to make the switch. The crossover body and hybrid engine is a sleek design in a sturdy structure with a spacious interior that opens to extensive cargo space. Stuck in traffic? The high-performance self-charging hybrid system automatically switches between gas and electric vehicle mode, helping you lower both fuel costs and carbon emissions. The Corolla Cross has full LED lighting inside and out, an integrated display audio system with energy monitor, and a dual-zone climate control system to ensure comfort for all. Test drive the new 2021 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid today at Vamp Motors, Walkers Road.
What do you do if you have to go to a shelter? To help you safely prepare, evacuate, and shelter while protecting yourself and others from COVID-19 this hurricane season, here's some tips from the Public Health Department. If you must go to a shelter, be ready to protect yourself and others. Practice social distancing of at least 6 feet from others. Follow public health's preventative actions. Wash your hands with soap and water, often if possible, or use hand sanitizer, cover coughs and sneezes, and wear mask or cloth face coverings. Get your COVID-19 vaccine when eligible. Avoid sharing food and drink with anyone. For more guidance to update your emergency hurricane plans due to coronavirus, visit www.caymanprepared.gov.ky. This message is brought to you by the Public Health Department in partnership with the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Registration is now open for the 6th annual Meals on Wheels 5K Turkey Trot Fundraising Run Walk. Come trot with us on Saturday, November 20th at Grand Ole House, South Church Street. There are great raffle prizes to be won, finisher medals, trophies, and complimentary continental breakfast to enjoy. Join our event sponsors, Davenport Development, McAlpine, and Radio Cayman as they support Meals on Wheels in the fight to end senior hunger in the Cayman Islands. Register today online at www.mealsonwheels.ky or call 769-1974 for details on volunteering for this event. See you at the starting line.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. I'm very grateful for the opportunity, especially on Wednesdays, as we get to showcase much within our government that is unfolding, sometimes unsung, and as we had a chance to focus on the great work over hazard management. I think as I listen to you, our parents and grandparents and their forefathers would talk about, making provision. They seem to do things now just in case, with a sense of vision. They had great foresight. They were also very strong in assisting our community. And David, from the perspective of hazard management, as we look at building resilience and capacity, we talk about nation building, but more of our people that are resourced, that are able to understand that there is a database, for one of the term, that you can draw on with the skill sets, with the level of courage, as I talked about, that you can respond in kind, you can respond as a collective unit. It probably gives that comfort, but it also appreciates that we need to constantly improve ourselves. The hurricane season for some is just about past, and they're ready to celebrate. But Mother Nature is in charge.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's a really good point you make about the grandparents, because it's availability, isn't it? I mean, back in the day, there possibly wasn't as much availability, and they were fully aware, of the frailties of what the weather systems can bring and everything else can bring. And I think sometimes, obviously, hazard management are here, and we're here to support. But I think individuals, I would recommend that we reflect on things that you may have thought, possibly should have prepared myself a little bit better for that. Physical provisions as well as mental sort of provisions, where you set yourself up. You look at what could potentially go wrong. We are coming towards the end of hurricane season, but we are just about to open up. We're just about to move to stage 4 of the reopening, and I would ask for all listeners to just to reflect on that. Try to make them look at that self-sufficiency. What do they need for their family if they need to look after themselves for a period of time, and then wider than that, think of the community. The old lady that lives next door. The persons, the family members that live up the street. Let's think about. Let's not get to the end of the hurricane season and then have a big party and think that everything's okay. Incidents can happen at any time, and the best thing to do is think about how we would respond to that as an individual, as a family, as a community.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, as I listen to you, many times in recent sort of interactions, we become complacent, but we also accept the conveniences. The supermarket is right there, the thing is right there. We can go there every day. But we look at the cost of that, not just the time alone of having to stop every day to shop. There was a practice when if you could, you shop, you got a 2-week supply of your stuff, and then you went back, every fortnight. For almost now is every 40 minutes where go in to get a bread, and then we go back and get eggs, and then go back and get stuff. So maybe doing it that way will minimize our outings, save us on cost of the commute, the time, but also being provided.
Yeah, I think so, and I think any incident, any incident, we can talk about major incidents, but any incident that affects an individual or a family can be quite traumatic. I've been to enough incidents over my career, whether it be a fire, whether it be a flood, whatever it might be, and the devastation that can bring just to that family, to that individual. To get yourself prepared for it prior puts you in a much better mental state post-incident. You've done your very best. You've worked out your plan. And you're quite right about the provisions. I mean, I could probably right now go to my grandmother's house and go in the larder and it'd be full. It always is, So I think we can learn a lot from that. And as I say, I think it is about sort of obviously looking after yourself, being prepared, looking after your family, but also keeping an eye out for your community, for the vulnerable members within the community.
Look, I mean, we look at, for many of us, we had that resource within us. So we had, the children, as children go to our grandparents, and there was always a little cabinet covered something that she had something. The grandfather was at the back doing something of value. You're laughing.
No, I'm laughing because my mom used to have like the food, the good snacks hidden.
you know, right? I didn't want to get to that.
True.
But that's what it was, right? And now maybe we don't appreciate as much as we should that there are a lot more of us. There are a lot more challenges sometimes getting the stuff in. We've had to make accommodations because the thing that we liked is no longer as readily available. Not because we don't have money, for those who are employed, it's just not available.
Sorry to interject. I think we've as a community and or as a globally, I should say, we have come from the state of affairs where families bought stuff when they could, and they bought in preparation for a period of time.
Right.
Because of the ease of access to get goods and items nowadays, we look at the availability. So you think, okay, like you mentioned before, I can go and buy eggs, now, and 20 minutes later I send for another item. The challenge you have is when you have to fend for yourself, whether it's post-hurricane or if you have to isolate or whatever the case is. If you need assistance from someone in the community or the government, then you are limited to what they can provide you. So the convenience and comfort of eating, one particular exactly steak and eggs or whatever it is you want to eat, and it could be a dietary restriction because you are restricted or limited to a certain diet because of medical reasons. So I think we've become, I don't want to use the word complacent, but the ease of access has caused most of us to be so confident in the ability to, we'll get to the supermarket, a day before the storm or whatever the case is, and then when it becomes a reality that the storm will impact us or something else, the earthquake or what have you, we are now limited to, I normally get XYZ type of bread, 9 grain or whatever. Now you're limited to Pardo or whatever it is that is available.
If you're lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we all got some friends and family, and maybe even be one of us, who shop, for Christmas in October, right?
Yep.
Everything's selected. They know what it is. A few items. Christmas Eve, they're sitting, enjoying a meal without any stress. And we keep saying, I'd like to be like you. Well, plan.
Yeah, definitely. It is about planning. And unfortunately, there are people within the community, all communities, that just think, someone will come and help. The government are here to help. And don't get me wrong. I mean, the HMCI, we don't work by ourselves. We have some amazing, partners. It's a multi-agency response when it comes to sort of emergency response, disaster management, or just general support. The Red Cross, the regiment, absolutely fantastic partners to work with. Various agencies across government, but we're not the first port of call. When it comes to that self-sufficiency and that self-provision, there's going to be times, especially during the hurricane season, where we won't initially, as the hurricane hits, be able to respond. It's down to the individual and to actually look at the risk within their own environment and have provisions to look after themselves. And then obviously we're going to look for the vulnerable and the most needy first and support where we can. But we're not the first port of call when it comes to that sort of self-proficiency.
Yeah, I mean, if each one of us were to do the best we can, we'll see how collectively the impact is great. Gents, I trust that this discussion can continue, later on in the weeks and months ahead, so that people continue to appreciate the value of investing in our skill sets.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a Red Cross, training program for first aid, for instance. Maybe we took it way back when. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we should consider it. There are other skill sets that we can develop, volunteering with the CERT teams, for instance. As I invite you for past final thoughts, do we start with the most handsome first?
Yes.
Okay.
Must be me.
All right, so my final thoughts would be...
See, he jumps in straight away.
You were pointing at me, so I was like, okay, cool. I got no problem. So in closing, one thing I want to do, encourage the listening audience, is prepare. Not just within the hurricane season, but prepare for the future, tomorrow's problems. And that's only could be done by having a plan in place.
Yeah, man.
And that's what we're encouraging here. We want self-sufficiency.
All right.
I think he said what I was going to say.
I saw you passing the notes. Thanks for that.
But certainly, just to add to that, as I always say whenever I come on to address the public or speak to the public, is have a plan in place. Yes, have those preparedness packs. Like I always say, we have a preparedness pack in the office, one in the car, one at home, and have your travel information, any other important documents, insurance, or whatever it is, a backup stash of medication. There's so many different ways of preparing, and if you want any guidance on that, certainly give us a call or visit our website at caymanprepared.ky, and we are there to basically prepare and support that community preparedness and resiliency. So that is, I think, the best advice I can give anyone.
All right, work together. And David, if you wish to.
No, I think the lads have summed that up really, really well. I think the other thing I would say highly recommend, as I've got children myself, is listen to your kids, because they'll come home and they'll tell you, they'll tell you what you need to do and what you need to prepare for and everything else, because obviously we're out there within the communities and we're out there within schools and they're getting this from teachers, and it's important. And I come back finally about the mental health side of it, which is often overlooked. Yeah. The better you're prepared, the better you will cope with any emergency post that event.
Yeah. We find that fear paralyzes, and if you can't think and act rationally because you're not prepared, your decisions and inaction could be detrimental. So I certainly want you all to come back on as we continue, and maybe taking the chance from you earlier, volunteer. Volunteer, say to become part of the CERT program, skill set. There's the Red Cross. The community will benefit. You will benefit. Mm-hmm. I may invite you to enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Don't get your hair too wet. Don't be like me. All right, we're going to pause to take the break. When we come back, more Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Fire service crews are currently exploring an area at the landfill where smoke was seen by Department of Environmental Health staff. They are excavating areas of concern. No smoke currently visible, and they are damping down any hot areas. Fire service says it is preventative and precautionary. There is no risk to public safety. Turning to international news now, countries are being urged to strengthen their carbon-cutting targets by the end of 2022 in a draft agreement published at the COP26 Glasgow Climate Summit. The document says vulnerable nations must get more help to cope with the deadly impacts of global warming. It also says countries should submit long-term strategies for reaching net zero by the end of the year. A U.S. judge has ruled a congressional committee investigating the Capitol riot can access some of the ex-President Donald Trump's White House records. Former U.S. President Donald Trump had sought to invoke executive privilege under which presidential documents can be kept secret. The inquiry is trying to find out if Trump had prior knowledge of the riot. Trump supporters stormed to the Capitol building on January 6th as Congress was certifying President Joe Biden's election victory. The first NASA mission since 1972 to put humans on the moon's surface has been pushed back by 1 year to 2025. Few observers expected NASA to make the previous 2024 date because of a funding shortfall and a lawsuit over the landing vehicle. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Following the storm of 1932, Cayman Brac, under the initiative of Commissioner A.W. Cardinal, engaged in several different industries to boost their recovery efforts. Sharks were actively fished for their skins, which were then shipped via Jamaica to New York. For perspective, one good shark skin over 35 inches could feed a family for a week. Egging became more common. The practice of egging meant traveling hundreds of miles to the Sorana, Pedro, and Morant Cays and collecting birds' eggs and then shipping them direct to Jamaica. The eggs would value at £4 per thousand, with the season record being 291,000 eggs collected. Cattle and goat hide tanning was also a trade unique to the Brac by the Lazari family in Northeast Bay. Its leather products supplied the sister islands and was exported to Jamaica and sold in Grand Cayman.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
We may be in Christmas shopping mode, but 'tis the flu season too. Savannah Pharmacy has immune system boosters for the entire family with a range of vitamins and supplements. Their knowledgeable and courteous pharmacists are always available to offer the best advice and products. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
The technology sector is forecast to be one of the fastest growing industries in the next decade, with more jobs available than skilled people to fill them. Enterprise Cayman is helping to fill this void and grow the next generation of Caymanian innovators, giving young people access to high-quality learning experiences with the opportunity to pursue careers in technology and innovation sectors. Learn to code, how product development works, enter professional competitions, access high-tech resources, network with special economic zone industry professionals, and much, much more. Visit enterprisecayman.ky to find out more. Brought to you by Cayman Enterprise City.
The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter will be taking appointments November 8th to the 20th at his Crew Road Clinic. Appointment slots are limited. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancement, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles or have any skin disorders and skin cancers, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email dr.portercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020 to book your appointment today. That's 946-9020.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us. Now we have some open line until 1:30, and then get a chance through our programming, scheduling, and the cab office, press secretary over to the premier. We're going to have a discussion about Remembrance Day. For me, it's important to be able to at least provide the opportunity to be, reminded and to show the respect that is so deserving for all of those, who have risked their lives, who have given their lives. Now, when you think of the freedoms we enjoy and democracies where people can freely, responsibly, and respectfully engage in banter, pursue their interests. Now, maybe it is where, if we had the opportunity to join Miss Anita the other morning, she had Mr. Loxley and others on the show, Mr. Sydney and the like. And Mr. Loxley comments that, we got to be mindful that there isn't, something else afoot elsewhere, for whatever reason, that not just challenges the freedoms that we sadly, in many instances, take for granted. Just like, Lennox's comments prior that we are, because of the level of access that we have, the level of sort of comfort that we enjoy, of the mind that, the shop is on the way home, the grocery store, that little place you can just, how my friend would say, nip in. You just stop in, you pick up the thing you want, and you may do that every day or every couple of days. There are those who will, go for a month as much as they can and buy certain things that last them. There are those of us, as a family member, when seconded to Germany way back when, we're talking, twice a week on the way from work. Many times, walking, you would stop to the market. And this was, 30-odd years ago, thereabouts, and buy the food for the remainder of the week. We know that in, say, the U.S. or other similar countries, the practice might be you go to the larger sort of bulk stores and you buy certain items that you keep for a longer time because they're not, as perishable. Well, a similar practice that we have here. But as we become comfortable, with that level of convenience and access, we think of Remembrance Day and the comment that, Mr. Loxley sort of left in parting as he was on the buzz on Tuesday. We don't take for granted the freedoms that we have, and we don't allow anyone, an elected person, an appointed person, a self-anointed person, some individual in the private sector, whether they come from here, there, or anywhere, to act or believe that they can do as they choose if it means that your access to the beach, for instance, or your freedom to express something because they, sort of sign your paycheck. Now, that in and of itself can hinder many people. You don't bite the hand that feeds you, it says, but certainly you don't let that hand extend the poison to you. Too many times in court we talk about, not allowed to eat from the fruit of the poison tree, but how many times is that seemingly being overlooked because, it's not that bad? Well, let's hear from you. Not so much from the philosophical perspective, but you can wax and wane if you so choose. But let's hear from what is real, what is impacting you in this notion that we will be, once again trying to get back to a semblance of interacting with others, hopefully in a space where we're sensible about what we're doing and how we're doing it without any sense of a great fear and trepidation, perhaps with accounts in the media and whatever way that is determined and termed and defined, that it is responsible, accurate stuff, and that it isn't, a fear mongering amongst people or fear driven approach. We don't insulate and isolate ourselves, but that we move forward with courage, but also with a sense of compassion. And if you decide to go out and shop, it's not to hoard, but it's to be able to help yourselves and to help others. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us. Because at the end of the day, the objective is to be able to make our lives as best as possible with the intent that if we can, we will want to improve the lands in which we live so that those who come after find a better place, or at the very least find a place in no worse a state than that which we found it. If we think to the lives that we live with the comforts and the like, that compared to our parents and compared to their parents, probably many would say, well, it's easier, more comfortable. Now, is it better? Well, that depends on how you assess that. Some would say yes, and others would quickly say no. But again, it's maybe not just relative. Could they move more freely about their communities? Probably. Were they moving in a safer way? Well, it depends. Some would say yes. Safer from others, not doing them harm. Safer from the perspective that they didn't have to worry about maybe unleashed dogs and the like. But what about other things that may not have made their passage as safe? Let's say the use of technology. But for recent times when it comes to air travel, we probably would expect and accept that the technology has allowed air travel to be safer than it was, in its infancy. What about cars? Well, some would say, well, the cars are not necessarily as safe if you, God forbid, meet into a wreck, because now they're built with probably toothpicks and popcorn in some instances, as opposed to being akin to one of those big tanks that were heavily built. But then the safety features with the airbags and the side curtains for impact and the reinforcements that sometimes even come, and the provision of seat belts and the like. But again, are we making our societies better and safer? Are we a more amenable people when it comes to looking after the interests of others? Are we more considerate? Or are we just filled with avarice and only concerned about what we can get? Doesn't matter how, as long as we get more. Doesn't matter that we need it, but boy, it's driven by that want. Well, what's on your mind? 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. What is that thing that you see where that's all transferring and causing so many to, consider that the time and space in which we occupy is crucial to not only continued safety and security and sanity, but the overall health and well-being of our society. Now, we also appreciate that there are many who are honestly feeling great stress. They are concerned increasingly about their jobs. They may be, the sole proprietor. They may be part of a large organization and wondering, will they be able to keep staff on? Will they have to downsize and let go staff? Will they still continue to be profitable? Now, there are probably some businesses that, what they say, rolling hand over fist in profits. Now, it's not about taxing one to redistribute it to the other, as we've seen increasingly calls by many political leaders in many jurisdictions. The notion of wealth redistribution. And I want to reference that to ask, following a presentation on Monday, where some were of the view that maybe we look at examples in history, we look at the Cayman context, and we consider a number of things. The economics aside, I start with the environmental considerations that were sort of proposed. The question was, if there is one country, and that was somewhat of a discussion in itself, is the Cayman Islands a country? But going to the premise that want to operate as such, why are there seemingly different rules for Grand Cayman relative to the sister islands when it comes to development? Now, the presenter quickly shared, well, it's good to incentivize and provide ways that we can, get communities to work, give the people there a sense that they can make meaningful investments and enjoy those things that they may see happening on Grand Cayman. But he quickly posited, should we look at development so that, for instance, if you go to have to build a house, should the rules on one island be different than the rules on the other? Should not just the incentive relative to fees and the cost and the efficiency and the quickness with which applications can be approved, but if you're talking relative to structural integrity of a building, no one would want to say that it should be compromised because it's cheaper here than there, or because it's lesser population here than there. Well, if that's the same mindset, should it not be the same that if you're close to the water's edge, doesn't matter if you're on Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, or Little Cayman. If the idea is to preserve, certain types of vegetation or certain coastlines, then iron shore is iron shore is iron shore. Beach is beach is beach. With that in mind, he also gave the notion, well, do we look at the economic concerns of not just the environmental considerations, but the things that may cause certain communities to have to recognize that at the end of the day, it's going to be significantly more costly to live in some places for obvious reasons. But if there are such growing disparity between price of fuel or price of milk or some other necessity, is there a way to help to defray those costs without it becoming a burden, or without the recipients feeling as if they have to be on some sort of social welfare? Now, discussions that are probably easier to hypothesize, have that level of as Ms. Susan is sharing with me, the phone lines are there reminding callers that they can give us a shout on 949-8037 and 949-6990 to the one individual who messaged in saying the toll-free line was just ringing. Well, try 949-6990, 949-6990 if you're not able to access the toll-free line. But instead of just getting into a discussion that seems to be more academic, his view is that there are real considerations from real people who are really being impacted now. And he suggested that a government, albeit having to consider many other things, need to strongly look at the costs to individuals for three things: the cost of housing, whether it's a rent or a mortgage, the cost of health care, and then the increasing cost of education. Now, he started with education, saying that we have perhaps an undervalued, underappreciated, heavily government-supported education system. But is there sufficient value for money in it? Not just in the amount of money that is spent, but the way it's spent. And he said if we could get to a place where people don't perceive that one system is better than the others. He said he came from a place where public education was, the best choice. There were one or two small private schools, but maybe to borrow a term he used, reference in today's sort of approach, maybe it was a bit, selective, elitist, but that was not the norm. Now, we all are familiar that people will see in certain jurisdictions the term, a public school, and immediately have a very negative connotation. Well, why should that be? Public school, therefore being supported and subsidized by the government through taxpayer funds, should be the very best, because they would have access to, at least on paper, more resources, better resources. Now, he questioned, are we looking at it and incorrectly misapplying the approach so that the public healthcare system, the public education system should be top-notch because it is serving the public. It's being funded by taxes, which is raised from the public. And why is it then that we believe that private tuition at schools and private schools would be better, private healthcare would be better, when that level of funding and resource and commitment should even top the scales because it is public? Well, he talked, of those three things and said if we were to address the cost of those, the perception and provision of those, we would do a lot to help when people have to look at their budgets and understand that at the end of the day, they're not required to spend so much of their money as it presently is in many places on those three things. Now, you may say, well, you can't tell people what to charge for the rents on their properties, whether it's a commercial or residential space. And if a person opts for something that they can acquire privately, they can't be denied if they have the wherewithal to do so or the willingness to sacrifice, because that thing and paying for that thing is of paramount importance. And his response was simply, well, the provision by a government of a healthcare system, of education, shouldn't be inferior and substandard then shouldn't be anything other than the very best, because then, well, it's a waste of resources. If you're not going to do it properly, then don't do it. And he argued that if you're going to truly take an economic based approach, then that would be what you would be doing, or otherwise you will leave it to be done by someone else. And therein lied the discussion of privatizing many of these things. His premise was simple. It doesn't mean that because it's done by government that it has to be inefficient, and it doesn't mean that if it's done by the private sector that it's profitable and cost effective. If the motive is to make money, will the obligations be to serve the widest interests, or just serve those who can pay or provide the service or the product in a way that makes more money, the most profit from the financial perspective? Again, not considering the economic implications, the societal ramifications, and the whole notion that through a government's involvement and role, not just regulation, not just legislation, but actually bringing these things to the fore, should be much more beneficial to a wider audience at a much reduced cost, because the motivation of making a lot of money is far removed from it. He gave us an example, an article, and I don't recall the publication, but he said it was of the UK, written by a professor who's studying sort of the workings in Latin America, and looked at a few of the countries where the profit motive, including Cuba, was removed from research and development, and where, as perhaps a mandate by the government, the best and brightest minds and the available resources were turned to pay closer attention on certain strategies, and as a result, they were not only arrived at sooner, but they were arrived at much more sort of cheaply, as it were. And he said if you could do that historically, and allegedly it was done recently when it was touted that the development for treatment protocols for the corona came about simply because that was the same approach. Industry and government, researchers across the globe were leveraging their skill sets, their resources, and their labs and all the things that they had in order to work collectively. Well, we see something come to the market much sooner than many would anticipate was possible or were accustomed to, given historical sort of reasoning. If we can do it in one instance, an example has been shown to occur in others because of the sort of political climate, why can't we do the same now? Well, those are the discussions that sometimes I sit and listen, and allows me for days and sometimes many times thereafter to reflect on the thought processes of the people within our communities. And these are the things that we look at as we understand where we are. I'm going to pause and take a short break. We're expecting our next set of guests to arrive shortly. We invite you to stay tuned as we hopefully have a working phone line. We certainly have a very attentive Miss Susan with a beaming smile even behind the mask, keeping us all safe. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
You see how hard it's raining?
Yeah, and I don't have time to fight traffic and get my lunch from Subway. I have so much work to do.
Why don't you order Subway by using the Let's Eat or Bento app? Save time, stay dry, and get your sandwich fast.
I never thought of that. Great idea. I'm going to order now.
Order me a veggie pizza while you're at it.
And a cookie platter for the office.
Too busy at work or home? Is the rainy weather stopping you from dining out? Order your favorite Subway sandwich, wrap, or pizza through the Let's Eat or Bento app with fast and reliable delivery. Subway, eat fresh.
You can now register online to receive a securely verified digital copy of your COVID-19 vaccination status with QR code through the My HSA patient portal. Sign up is available online and at all HSA locations. All you need is your photo ID showing date of birth and an email address. Visit hsa.ky and click the My HSA patient portal icon to get started.
Had a look at those investment options yet?
Too busy. Look at today. Workout, breakfast, take the kids to school, back-to-back meetings, take Pepper to the vet, and she's apparently got allergies now, so... And that was all before 12. But you look relaxed.
That's because my money's as busy as you.
With RF, you can access the best in local and international investments to keep your money busy, so you can spend more time focusing on you. Contact us at rfgroup.com to find out more. RF, money at work.
FedEx Delivery. Share this season with everyone by shipping your rum cakes and gifts with 30% off and get an additional 20% on your next shipment. Visit us. Restrictions apply.
The Department of Environmental Health would like to advise Georgetown residents to get their bulk waste ready for collection from November 8th to the 13th. Household appliances, furniture, and other items too large to be handled by the weekly DEH collection crews should be placed by the roadside where it is easily accessible to DEH collection crews. Metals and vegetation should also be separated from other bulk items. Do not obstruct the roadway or storm drains, or place tires, construction and demolition waste, hazardous materials, or electronics. For more information on the Georgetown bulk waste collection from November 8th to the 13th, please contact DEH's Solid Waste Management Section at 9049-6696.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. All right, let's try the lines, see if they work. Because I think after that attempt at singing yesterday, we may have not done a good thing. I certainly don't want to have to try that again today. But 949-6990 or 949-8037 or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Or you can WhatsApp, 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us as we invite you to share, your perspective and everything. I mean, we're going to be getting back to opening up of our borders in short order. And for many people, they're looking forward to being able to travel. Some have, already scrambled to buy tickets because they want to get somewhere. I know many looking forward to family and friends being able to visit. And despite the conjecture and the banter and the uneasiness of some, we are, healthy, resilient people who are safe under His care and hands, who are kind and considerate, who are cognizant that sometimes you have to look at things and not live in a sense of fear, not when you don't have to put yourself in a bubble. And I know that we dance around the recent discussions relative to how we talk about the increased numbers and how it's being played out in the international media. And some have said, well, if you don't test, you won't know. And if you test, you'll find out. And if the test that you use isn't as accurate and all these things. But end of the day, what can we do? Well, let's be smart about how we move in our communities, do the things that we think would help us. Certainly employ, excellent protocols relative to our hygiene, as many of us do, and be respectful of the request of others. Now, maybe we will find ourselves in a space where some people have to be mandated to do certain things, and that may not bode well. Maybe we'll find a space where, because we're so compliant, we will do things and it works, to our favor. But time is the great equalizer, and certainly will tell what our actions are. But if we are mindful that future generations will look back, and we are, for some, always want to be perceived in the very best way, well, let's make sure we do the very best now. Some just don't care, and some will say, well, I'll be here now, so let me take what I can. Kind of like when they go to the buffet, some of us will take a small plate and make multiple trips, expecting that, we'll taste each thing as we want in small amounts. Others will take one big plate and ask for a second, pile everything on it, and then waste it all. So we all have different approaches to life. What is your approach, and what is your thought relative to, as we welcome the open skies and flights coming in and people again interacting? What do you see happening? And I can understand if you're fearful to share your thoughts, because people might think that because you're saying something that you're either uncaring and unsympathetic, or that you're fearful, or that you have a view that seems to go against the script, or that you're singing from the chorus and just championing something without any consideration. But the thing is, it is your thought, it is your opinion, and if you're not free to share that in what should be a democracy, then really there is no freedom. What was that song that Susan used to sing? Free the mind and the rest will follow. But in the lyrics of Bob Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And the problem is sometimes we allow ourselves to be censored because we perceive that our, very words, sometimes actions, may cause people to look at us in a way. But if that thing that we're trying to say and do is, in our minds at least, unnecessary, but at the very least it's important that we say it and share it and do it, then why shouldn't we? We're not putting others at risk, or we're not crying down someone for having a conflicting or contrary view. Tolerance should be that as they expect you to accept their views and their rights to share as they wish, they too should be willing to hear your counter view. 949-8037, toll free at 1-800-534-TALK, 1-800-534-8255, compliments of flow, or 925-3261, and give us a perspective from sort of your impact and your cause of, as you see, here is, sort of a public thank you from one of our listeners, and publicly expressing gratitude to the government and the Department of Agriculture for assistance given to the farmers following the recent passage of the last weather system. I think, like many, refer to it as a hurricane, and I think that that in and of itself isn't perhaps unusual. Many of us see it as, wow, that must have been, what the gentleman said, that must have been a young hurricane, he said. And reminds us not to necessarily take for granted the classification of any weather system. It may be a tropical storm, it could be for inclement weather, and expected, showers that are a little bit isolated and heavy in certain areas. As the weather report says, low-lying areas are prone to flooding. Well, we're going through standing water, driving our cars or riding our bikes, or because we would normally walk in that area, it's impossible. We shouldn't take for granted that just because it's not something with a significant categorization according to the metrics that are used to classify, that it can't be something that is consequential and have a negative impact. And certainly, just because of its label, we shouldn't be dismissive and ignore the possible consequence. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. I had an early presentation, and it's been a while because of obvious circumstances. People are busy, people are increasingly distancing themselves from interacting. And the person drew reference to a discussion that was had 2 years ago, around the same time in November, and then last year and this year. And it's one of those discussions where people pay attention to certain things and make notes and revisit the sort of progress, and said that right now, if we were to list the things that are being discussed, the things that governments are being asked to address, it's one thing and one thing only. Last year it was still a few things, but it's still increasingly one thing that was on the top of the list. You go back to 2018 and every previous year, you would see that crime and cost of living, things like education, healthcare, and infrastructure development play a role. But what were some of the hot sort of social issues? The notion that people were concerned about certain things. And he asked the question, well, have they all been resolved? So there is no more, crime and personal safety issues. People not concerned about issues relative to the environment like they once were. These things are almost having to be forced again on the agenda. Now, he said that if you take discussions like the same-sex marriage and that heavily and hotly debated topic, is it now that's been resolved and the society understands that it's not really a big deal? We weren't really arguing about anything significant. There's people's choices and freedoms and rights to choose. Or is it that we are now so consumed with everything else that these things no longer have a level of import? But as he shared, maybe they just didn't. And he emphasized that too many times we spend so much energy, we spend so much money and time discussing the things that are not important, and yet we get distracted by the so-called red herrings. And he shared that if we could continue to look at things through that lens, maybe we'll appreciate that people's access to healthcare and food and shelter, the things that were considered the basic necessities of life, will always and forever be. If we were, he said, faced with food shortages, would it be that the amount of wealth that you have, would that allow you to get access to the foods? Maybe it would. It would bid up the price and you would be able to buy more. But is that more that you purchase relative to your neighbors and your community? No. Your million will trump, to buy someone's 10 million that, just a drop in the bucket to someone's 1 billion and another's, 10 billion. So at some sliding scale, what you think is your wealth is just relative, as opposed to the community responding to ensuring that there's a communal approach to much. And therein he shared that we get to this discussion of political systems and even the idea that a state where the people understand the importance of collectively working together may not necessarily be something in this part of the hemisphere that is looked at in a favorable way. But shouldn't it? So, in deference to his presentation, let me ask as we go into the break, what is your thoughts relative to the political systems that we operate? he did share, and perhaps I should relay this, that in the UK, as he was growing up, you have governments, perhaps last century, where they were considered socialist democrats. We see it in other parts of Europe, and not necessarily with the same level of contempt that may be seen in other Western democracies, but certainly not with the same level of respect that they may be deserving. Well, want to talk about that? Certainly do so. 949-8037, 949-6990, or toll free with the compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. Let's pause and take a break. When we come back, we invite you to call.
Savannah Pharmacy. Shop local and get a head start on your Christmas shopping. For ladies' handbags, clothes, shoes, fragrance, candles, and cosmetics with the newest Farmhouse Fresh line of skincare. For the gentlemen, clothes, shoes, fragrances, gift sets, and toys and games for the kids. Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs. And convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab. Blood test, x-ray, and mammogram, all of that is MedLab. Affordable fees and friendly service, a full professional team. MedLab is always comfortable, MedLab is always clean. For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Call 949-7331 and ask about MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Brand Source Home Gallery is celebrating their 52nd anniversary with a 15% off store-wide sale this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only. Yes, 15% off everything in store. Appliances, vanities, sinks, housewares, mattresses, plumbing fixtures, barbecue grills, and more. Brand Source Home Gallery store-wide sale, 3 days only. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Hurry! Don't miss this opportunity to save 15%. Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Call 949-5211.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Pure and cleaner.
Now is the time, and we are ready to help you with your household cleaning needs. And that is bedspreads, comforters, duvets, duvet covers, drapes, and so much more. All items at 10% off prepay, and turnaround time will be 2 to 3 days. Orders can be handled at all 3 stores: Elgin Avenue, Savannah Countryside, Eastern Avenue, drive-through, rain or shine. All stores close at 5:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Call 949-7104. Puritan Cleaners. You feel good when you look good.
Study local and go far this spring. Want to start your bachelor's or associate degree, or just need a few classes to complete? Registration is now open for spring classes at UCCI. Scholarships are available for the spring semester, but you need to act now to meet the deadlines. Visit www.ucci.edu.ky to enroll now. Classes begin January 10th. Enroll by December 1st for a chance to win an iPad or a laptop.
Do you want to serve your community? How about learning new and exciting skills? The Cayman Islands Regiment is now accepting applications for volunteers. Caymanian and permanent resident applicants should be between 18 and 50 with a clean police record. No military experience is required. Apply online at www.gov.ky/CI Regiment. Applications close on November 15th, 2021.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261, and share your thoughts with us. Got a quick message during the break from one of our listeners, and I don't have an answer, but let me ask the question. The message was asking if there is any, how do I phrase this best, but anyway, want to know availability of other vaccine options, saying that they read and see in the international media that there are certain ones being allowed in the US other than what we have available here. Now, I messaged back to ask, well, what do you think? Should we have that level of choice, as physicians have been sharing that they should be the primary deciders as to what course of treatment options that they should prescribe for their patients, provided as they're saying they're following their creed, first do no harm. So the physician, knowing her patient, decides that she thinks this is a better course of action, using approved, licensed, regulated, medicines, for want of maybe a better word, not fully sort of in favor with the medical lingo. Could those people, be better served in that capacity? 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp, 925-3261. Well, what do you think? Having the those options available to us, as the fellow message and said, hey, well, I shouldn't presume, forgive me. Fellow could be implied to mean male, and that's probably unconsciously to speak. So as the person messages, if your physician, he says, hey, I want you to try this thing. I know that this is something that we would normally use for this, but having some success in this instance, it's not an experiment in that sense. It's one of those things that you're looking at to help you better, And, well, see where it goes, 1-800-534-8255, or 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261, and share your thoughts with us. I'm reading one of the message. This one is saying, well, isn't it doctors? Sorry, into this messenger, I thought maybe it was the size of the font, but I realized that got to decipher some of these words. I think this person is just saying, okay, would that be for the doctors to decide, or would it be approved by the CMO? All right, maybe this person can write us in and share their thoughts with us. But yeah, my response and listen to what this person is saying. Of course, let it be for the people who would know best as to what we should be doing. And as it would be, the case, or would it be that we just allow that the physicians, once they're licensed and regulated here, that they can then dictate what best, in consultation with their patients, that course of action should take. And maybe that would lay, as this person is typing back, so that maybe that would lay the speculation that it's all about money or favoring certain places. And we'll see where that takes us. In 949-8037, 925-3261 to WhatsApp, or you can use the Flow toll-free line at 1-800-534-TALK. That's 1-800-534-8255. And certainly, make it be a perspective that you share so that we can benefit from, as you see it, what is happening. And I think, increasingly, a lot of many, I should say, perhaps not just a lot, but maybe many would probably take the perspective that, we have to get on with what we're doing. We move in a sense that it's challenging now. But we just want to relate to a few of the callers there. We'll get you connected up. Sorry about that difficulty. I know Miss Susan has got it. And we can see where we're challenged. And as this caller is saying, we got to make sure that we doing our part to be responsible and not necessarily just leaving it for other people to do stuff. Okay, see if this call is connected. We tried. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question.
Of course.
My question, what we don't know and we want to come through towards it officially. I mean, with the COVID-19 what's going on, and whatsoever it may be, I'm thinking, so maybe you might have deal with people where I don't know and where you might understand before. The sick is a poison.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question I asked you, the COVID.
So is it a poison or is it sick?
No, I mean, I have to if it's a poison.
They say it's a virus. Certainly would probably impact the body of some in a different way than the others. Similar with the vaccination that they're given. Some people have a different response to it.
The same question I'm still asking about. No, just answer. The same question is, I have to tell you again, so I just ask you, what you think about it, if it is a poison?
What's your view?
Huh?
What's your view?
I think it's a poison.
Why do you think that?
Huh?
Why do you think that?
Well, a poison is just like, say, your wife had a sick on a flu.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have flu, when you look, you catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look, you look at a baby there and then you catch it here. It just left to the system. So it's a poison towards your body.
Mm-hmm.
You can deal with it?
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, that's certainly free to have that perspective. You're probably not alone in that view. Many people certainly concerned about what is it that they're experiencing now. So something to think about, right? So if it is a poison, what do we do about it?
What to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
I can't do the good about it, but too much people going to question my intelligence. They're going to deal with it. I can't read and write,
Mm-hmm.
But there's a machine there,
Yeah, well, listen, I think too many times we fail to appreciate how smart people are, and we think just because they have somehow, gone to university or got a piece of paper or they speak a certain way, that in itself is, intelligence. You seem like a very informed, intelligent person, not just, what you do, but your willingness to ask a question and engage publicly. So that to me is, to be encouraged.
Well, I know you have to encourage, but,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
everybody born on the earth, and everybody who born have a gift,
Exactly.
If you want to give it away, you give it away,
Mm-hmm.
If you want to keep it, you keep it. You're going to deal with it, and what you have with you can't give it away. You have to have it. You're going to deal with it.
All right.
You tell me something wrong, I tell me you can't read and write,
Yeah.
Serious,
Yeah, man. Well, hey, listen, man, the only time that people should, stop and reflect is when they talk to one another so they can listen, and hear what's being said. All right? All right. Hey, thanks, man. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Anybody want to give me counseling, take it. And anybody may want to counsel me, but I never do nothing that's wrong yet.
Right. Respectful man. All right.
Yeah. 65-year-old, a big man,
Yeah, that's right. No spin no tail. All right. Hey, thanks very much, sir. And I think we got a news to take. Yeah, do that over already. Thank you, sir. And with that, let's pause and encourage others to share likewise. Stay tuned.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. Today's biggest news.
At 11 a.m. tomorrow, you're invited to observe a moment of silence to commemorate those in the uniformed services who lost their lives in the battle. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's Remembrance Day ceremony on Sunday will take the form of private wreath-laying ceremonies without the usual contingents on parade. District Administration Minister, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, will lead a brief private ceremony on Cayman Brac. You can lay your own wreaths on both islands from 11:30 a.m. onwards. The event will be streamed live on the CIG YouTube channel. Turning to international news now, governments are considering calling for pulling the plug on coal power, the single biggest source of man-made greenhouse gas emissions, according to a draft deal under negotiation in UN climate talks. The draft, released Wednesday at the talks in Glasgow, Scotland, calls for accelerating the phasing out of coal and subsidies for fossil fuels, though it sets no timeline. And Americans' cost of living is rising faster than it has for 3 decades, with food and fuel driving the increases. The Consumer Prices Index for October showed prices rose 6.2% over the last 12 months. It marks a sharp jump from September, when prices were already rising at 5.4%. Inflation has been a growing concern for shoppers and policymakers this year as the impact of the pandemic persists. Those are your latest headlines. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Thanks to the gentleman for sharing his perspective as we take this next caller. Good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling. How are you?
Very well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I just want to call today. I don't know what you're talking about because I didn't really listen earlier, but something just been bothering me.
But you go right ahead, man. We want to hear you what you have to share. Go right ahead.
This morning I had to take my son to the home, down to an appointment. And I am coming down to get to that appointment on the spot straight. So there are these 2 cars, one on the left, one in the right lane. Both of them driving below the speed limit, somewhere around 30, 31 miles per hour. So both of them seem to be enjoying whatever they had going on mutually between them. Neither pulling to the left to either work together in their 31 miles per hour range of driving habit for the morning, and they decided they're going to maintain that for almost the entire length of the spot straight. Now, see, if we were speeding, they'd be the first person to cause. But we don't need individual drivers acting as if they're the police on the road, policing the roads and intentionally causing traffic delays. And then you had persons like the dump truck drivers who were behind and other persons trying to get into town, and they were blowing the horns, and neither one of these individuals felt it necessary to either move. You know, in the States, you either move to the left lane for all those who are willing to drive on a slower pace, and those driving at a faster pace for within the speed limit go to the right, for example. And I'm not sure why, when things like that happen, the police don't really ticket those people just as hard as they ticket the speeders. And then, coming up a while ago, I had the same thing happen, but this time you get somebody who decides to pull out of the spot beach onto the same highway, and he decides in his glory he can do that at 25 miles per hour when persons are traveling at 40 miles per hour. You see, you do them kind of things, you are almost ensuring there's going to be an accident. And this part is where I have a problem with the trafficking of the speed. Now, I see the police officers at the bottom of the drive there by Lantern Point. I see them in different locations with their speed guns, all intent on catching speeders. I want to see them dealing with these people who are hindrances on the road, who intentionally drive slow, who decide they must be the police of the day. They also need to be reprimanded and ticketed for driving below the speed limit. It cannot be that you can come into a highway and intentionally decide you're going to drive at 30 miles per hour because it suits you to do so. If you don't feel like driving for the day, stay home until you feel better that you can drive at the speed limit so that people can get where they need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to advocate speeding, you know.
No, but drive the speed limit so that you can considerate of everybody else, right?
But we have such a small jurisdiction. We have an overabundance and subscriptions of cars on our road that is taking us inordinate amounts of time to travel 3 and 4 miles to wherever our next destination is. And the last thing you need are persons who don't want to be conducive on the road in terms of being good drivers and good road users, because you are just as much eligible to be responsible for an accident as those who speed.
Yeah, I think that's something that maybe we see the excessive speed and complain that is a risk, but from what you're sharing, driving slow and inconsiderate can also put other people at risk as well.
But of course it can. If you come in up a driveway or drive at 40 miles per hour within the speed limit and somebody pulls out and he sees that because they're not blind, mm-hmm. and they intentionally decide, I'm going to go 25 miles per hour, what do you think happens to all the other cars?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People can get into accidents like that, and then what you do is slow down the entire highway because you choose to do so. So where's the recourse? And I think that's where some of the issues are happening as well. And then that causes someone who feels that they don't have the time or whatever their reasons are to either overtake or become disgruntled on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it keeps happening. We see it all. I know that you've seen it happen. I know the only person that experiences this.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, and as you're listening, 2 messages came in. One was sharing that they had a similar experience where, they're driving along and someone pulled out. Now, I don't know whether that's pulled into traffic from a safe distance, but pulled out and then, drove quite slow, as I paraphrase, and exactly as you repeat it, that caused the person to now brake, slow down, and then that knock-on effect all the way back. This other one shared as a similar example where decides to overtake because the car in front is going just excessively slow, only to get a ticket later because you accelerated and went beyond the speed limit.
Or you took over on a non-broken white line because on the white lines you're not allowed to overtake.
Right, well, that's that part too.
And we all appreciate the rules, but we also need to have persons who are going to abide. The other one that I keep talking about, and I experienced it up to yesterday, you're coming up by Hurley's, towards Hurley's, across the Lion Center. You cross Country and Western, you slow down into these 2 lanes, and we have 3 lanes that go around that roundabout. One is to your far left that can either take you into the Hurley compound, Grand Harbor, or it can take you up and you turn off to either go towards Prospect or you go into Red Bay.
Mm-hmm.
The middle lane takes you right up to wherever you want to go in the Eastern District. The 3rd lane intentionally can take you up as well, but also allows you to go back towards South Sound.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have are persons who are coming up that 2nd lane across the Lion Center, across Country and Western, who refuse to take the 2nd lane in those 3 lanes around the roundabout and sit and wait on that 3rd lane of persons coming from the South Sound area in order to just take the 3rd lane, and they're all going to Bordentown. They're not going to South Sound.
Yeah.
And if they had just continued on the 2nd lane, Sterling, you wouldn't have the slowdown and the breakdown of traffic every evening after evening.
Yeah.
And I want to know why.
Yeah. I think we're either confused and conflicted how to use our roundabouts, or we're just being inconsiderate. But as you shared that,
we can't be bothered to do what is right because I don't feel like taking the lean. It's the same reason people are out not wearing masks, because I can't be bothered. We are in a society now where a lot of people's attitude is, I can't be bothered. It's too much inconvenient. I'd rather do it this way, and I don't care who behind me is affected, or I don't care who's in front of me is affected. I'm going to do what is best for me. And while that is the intention in life, that we do what is best for us, we must also be considerate of other people, other users, other persons needing the same service.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've witnessed this a few times, unfortunately. There are 2 lanes, 2 cars side by side, not only going slow but having a conversation, unconcerned about traffic behind us.
That's famous. That's a famous one. I've had to stop somebody on the road beside him and say, hey, your back tire's flat, and you move along. Because you want the person to know there's a problem with the car. And sometimes you don't know because you don't check your car when you get in. But we really do have some inconsiderate road users. Seriously inconsiderate road users. And that junction and that whole roundabout there by Grand Harbor, we need to work on being able to maneuver ourselves in the second lane, up through the second lane, and not intentionally sit in the second lane to cross to the third lane to go towards Bordentown. There is no reason that second lane shouldn't be used.
Yeah. Someone saying, since we drive on the left, the right lane is the fast lane. People do not understand this, and there needs to be more road signage about this. So,
but I thank the people who understand what I'm trying to say, and I really hope that persons continue to be appropriate road users.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thank you for taking time, because maybe sometimes people hearing something, it may just bring them to recognition that what they're doing isn't necessarily.
And maybe every 5 years we need to do some examination on people renewing their licenses to ensure that they understand the usage of the road and understand the usage of roundabouts and which lane to take. Perhaps we need to implement that. And you might notice less users on the road because they mightn't pass the driving test.
Mm-hmm. Well, something to consider, but we could probably also address it through some sort of ticketing system where we infringe the rules and then we have consequences. But hey, thanks, man. Anything else you want to share?
No, just how the police get it. They are not focused just on speed guns, but on those who are non-compliant with the road usage guidelines.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. All right, we're going to take the caller. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Mr. Sterling, how are you?
Excellent, excellent. How are you? I'm very blessed.
I'm blessed. Thank the Lord. He gave me and allowed me to see another day in His wonderful and beautiful world.
Amen.
But I share that lady. I'm sharing her pain and her sentiments, everything this afternoon. What she said is so on point, because me coming into work, when it was lunchtime, it was after lunch, I was coming from the credit union by the Cayman National Roundabout. I want to specify which one, because I come in from the credit union and I decided to get in the left lane coming from the credit union because I was going up to the lights by the gas station past the town plaza. So I was going to make a left turn to come down Shaden Road. So me being a conscious driver, I always get, if I'm going to make a left turn, I make sure I get in the left lane when I'm coming out there. There was a person coming up that same road with me by the cricket square, by where they play cricket, the cricket field. And they decided to stay in the right lane. So they were going to turn left. Sterling, if I was driving, I guess 1 mile faster, it would have been a disaster right there if I were going much faster, because what happened, the person driving, I couldn't see whether it was a man or a woman, the person driving the vehicle, a big SUV Lexus, I think it was, driving that vehicle, decided I'm going straight to go up by the street light, and they decided to come around on the right to go down like towards Cayman National Bank Way. When I stopped, I mean, luckily I wasn't driving fast, otherwise I would have write her off, or whoever it was driving. So what I want to say to drivers out there, they need, like what the other lady was saying, they really and truly need to use a little common sense, as I know it's not too common nowadays, but they need to use it, or they need to put more signs by these roundabouts, because I do not know, to be honest with you, how come there are not a lot more accidents. This lady came right around on the right, took a left, and I'm coming on the right, on the left, to go straight.
Mm-hmm.
She was whoever it was, like I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know whether it was a man or a woman, but the person was so frightened because they saw what happened. They stopped completely. Yeah.
I think sometimes, like the caller prior was sharing, as you were relaying, we don't always seem to understand that, our actions affect people in a way, and to the person who's driving slow or slower than the traffic may not be how you say, deliberately being inconsiderate, just thinking if I'm going slower than the speed limit, I'm probably safer, right?
Yeah.
And yet that is causing others behind a level of frustration. Perhaps it's backing up traffic. Now, the speed limit is 40. You don't have to drive 40 or 38 or 35, but if you're doing 25, is that safer? Others cross you.
Or if you're driving slow and you see a car coming, if it is for some reason, just pull off or fix the road, because I see cars driving 30 side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can cross. And then this is in the morning, in the rush hour, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then ahead of them is fully open.
Yeah.
That is totally inconsiderate.
Yeah, that level of inconsideration is something that I think we need to consciously look at. And, even two vehicles driving abreast each other in itself could be impeding traffic. If they, as you said, if they're not going the requisite speed limit or a reasonable number close to that. But then I wonder too how many of us looking to pull into oncoming traffic realize the importance that there's a safe distance before we should even try to merge into traffic. If we do, we just can't drive and stop abruptly or go so slow that the cars behind us would have to apply brakes sharply. We need to get up to speed and get going to.
Yeah, and Sterling, especially coming from the eastern districts. You imagine someone having to be in town for 8:30 and having to get up. A friend of mine told me the other day that she has to get up from 4 o'clock, that she can walk her little dog, feed him, get dressed, and get downtown for 7:30.
That's, for small space, that is something that we need to address, because it could only get worse if it's not corrected, right? And then our school children are affected as well, and the parents and then the household, and then the whole social dynamic, as well as the potential impact on our health.
And then it's getting just as bad in the evenings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They are leaving early and getting home late, and it takes a toll on one.
Mm-hmm. I can sense that, man. It's,
but anyway,
thank
you for listening to my little rant.
Oh, well, it was well worth it. Thank you.
Yes, you have a good day.
And you do the same, all right?
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
You're most welcome. Well, the final break, is that what Miss Susan is telling me? She said, no, Cameron Airways is coming to land. No, we got to find a short break, and then we join you right after. Stay tuned.
For medical lab services in Cayman, go straight to MedLab.
For a full range of medical services, pleasant, clean and comfortable environment, no long lines and affordable fees, visit MedLab at the Smith Road Plaza. Open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and half day on Saturdays. Call 949-7331 to make your appointment.
For medical lab services in Cayman, MedLab.
Ask our professional team about the benefits of cutting-edge technology with MedLab's new state-of-the-art digital mammogram machine.
We may be in Christmas shopping mode, but 'tis the flu season too. Savannah Pharmacy has immune system boosters for the entire family with a range of vitamins and supplements. Their knowledgeable and courteous pharmacists are always available to offer the best advice and products. Remember, they are always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
A friendly holiday reminder. You can WhatsApp your Savannah Pharmacy prescription to 929-5045. That's 929-5045.
20 years.
Remember when Crew Road had no median and Linford Pearson was only 2 lanes?
We do.
When Dirty Reeds was down the street?
We do.
We have been there for the falls, the growth, and the rise. When your body and mind needed to change, Powerhouse Gym has been here. We've skated with you. Your first date, your daughter's first time on skates, your son's first strike. From football to squash, to karate and hockey, to bowling and concerts, and everything in between.
For 20 years.
So much has changed, some for the good and some not so much. Through it all, King Sports Center has been here for you, for Cayman.
King Sports Center, celebrating 20 years as Cayman's home for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Join the Cayman Islands National Museum in celebrating their 31st anniversary.
Cayman old times are back again.
Cassava cake and cool swanky. That's Cayman.
The Cayman Islands National Museum is pleased to host Look Ya, old time days come back again, how we used to live. Take a break from 2021 and take a step back into yesteryear. Relive our good old times. Saturday, November 20th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We're shutting down Gordon Avenue and Seafarers Way and expect to see all of Cayman there to celebrate. Cayman style beef, cassava cake, and stew turtle competition in all of our old-time traditions. Platin, rope making, salt fish, making wampas. Bring the kiddos, and don't forget Granny too. Saturday, November 20th, from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Now that's Cayman.
Cassava cake and cool swanky. That's Cayman. A jupina drink and a beef patty. That's Cayman.
Are you planning a social, an office party, or event over the holiday season? Make the most of your holiday party and leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway Box to Go with the option of a 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. Cater your holiday parties with Subway. Visit subway.ky for menu options. Subway. Eat fresh.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. And thanks so much for the company this afternoon and for the calls and the conversation as we take one more. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. Good afternoon to all our listeners. I think I'm the last caller on the line, right?
You might just be them, but, Susan always has a treat in hand, so... But thank you for calling, huh?
We need to extend it till 3 o'clock next time.
3 o'clock? Well, I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, extend that to 3 o'clock, where some people that doing things and are busy and can't get to attend to it or make a call, they'll have more time.
Exactly.
So let's change it till 3 o'clock.
All right, man. I like that. I'll make the proposal.
Yes, I'm busy now, but I just took a few minutes. I thought I would let the people know what's happening in the cruise industry.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest condominium cruise ship in the world is passing, looks like going to be the route south of Grand Cayman this evening. And that's coming from Port Antonio, Jamaica, where it came from Europe to Puerto Rico, and Port Antonio, Jamaica. Now it's going to Cozumel, and it has on board all multi-million-dollar families. That's who cruise on that condominium ship. It has 106 3- and 4-bedroom condos or apartments, you want to call it, and 19 1- and 2-bedroom, ranging from around 1,006 square feet. That's roughly around a 35 by 35 size home. That's around what my home is. Mine is here 38 by 28. So they lease these condominiums or apartments on the ship. They range from $850,000 up to $3.5 million. And some of them spend a year or more on board. Some spend months. And that's how they're cruising. They get away from all the COVID. Who's on board would be vaccinated, and they get clear of all the people on land. They'd be cruising out at sea, but it's rough weather out there today on their cruise coming through the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So 106 condos of 3 to 4 bedrooms they have on the ship, and again 19 of 1 and 2 bedrooms, and it carries average 200 to 450 people on board. And
wow.
They do around the world trips. They go into Mexico, and I think probably from there go into the States or to Bahamas, somewhere like that. So, and there's another one under construction, will be coming out soon as well. She has 199 condos or apartments on board. Quite an interesting thing. And only multi-millionaires, you have to have a minimum of $5 million to get a space on board one of these ships. So it's only for the super wealthy people that be on board these condominium ships. And it's quite interesting. You go around the world and see all the ports and cruise around. Retired people, most of them are from their early 60s upward.
Mm-hmm.
Quite an interesting thing to go around the world in, but multi-millionaires to afford it.
Yeah, well, $5 million these days, could buy a couple of pieces of candy, that's probably it, though. We don't much money these days, but as you said, it's probably increasingly, separating people based on their wealth.
Yes, definitely correct.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just to mention that we had record maritime history around the Cayman Islands in recent days.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we have the second biggest tanker in the world passing Grand Cayman, and NASA's biggest one, which was the second biggest. You wonder how the second biggest 1 and 2, they have them all the same size. There are probably about 40 of them that are the world's second, and then about 175 or 200 that is the world's sixth largest. They're all the same, built at the same shipyard, same length and same breadth. So
mm-hmm.
the goal with America is sending ships through here like never before with this natural gas and crude oil exports from America. And by the way, for your personal Cayman Islanders interest in Grand Cayman, the tanker that's in there today,
mm-hmm.
that's gasoline and diesel that was loaded in Garyville, Louisiana terminal, and the ship went to Guatemala, Santo Tomas de Castilla in Guatemala, and then came to Grand Cayman on her second port of call.
Wow. And now that fuel that it took in from Louisiana port, they went into Guatemala and then here, where did that come from?
Louisiana, I'm not sure, but
mm-hmm.
it could be from anywhere over the world.
Mm-hmm.
It could be made from American crude oil, made of gasoline and diesel from the American crude oil,
mm-hmm.
and also Scottish crude oil. It could be Brazilian crude oil, Norwegian crude oil. It could be any type of crude oil that's refined. So. And also an interesting thing that China is a big supplier now of gasoline and diesel. They're buying American crude oil and refining it, and they're shipping it back to the Caribbean island of St. Croix. The Chinese have a 10 million barrel storage facility in St. Croix.
Mm-hmm.
Companies like Rubis or anyone else can buy from that storage terminal, send a tanker there and load it up and go and deliver it other places. And I know where in China they sent a cargo to Quebec, Canada, came through the Caribbean via the Panama Canal. From China all the way to Canada was a 600-foot-long tanker, 50,000-tonner loaded with gasoline from China to Quebec and Montreal, Canada. So the world trade is quite a
mm-hmm.
super interesting thing that I just on it and keeps up with it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's amazing to, if you're out sometimes seeing the big tankers go across. Other times, You know, I want to share with you one of our listeners before we leave, relaying to you some thanks. And this listener is saying, please tell you that, many, many thanks. Without a doubt, one of the most interesting callers I've heard, and I think, Mr. Raymond, you, like this caller and listener is writing to share, you relay good information about our maritime history, about the passage of vessels, off our shores, and that shows how important, the seas are for our livelihoods and providing the goods that we come to rely on so effortlessly sometimes. So, yeah, thanks. Any final thoughts, Mr. Raymond?
Yes, sir. The most coconut oil in history has been passing the Cayman Islands, coming from Malaysia, going to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
3 brand new tankers, 2 passed 2 weeks ago, and 1 is passing day after tomorrow. That will be on Friday, passing Grand Cayman, loaded with 14 million gallons of coconut oil. You think 14 million gallon bottles put out in a field, the size area that would take. And the tanker is brand new, and that was the first cargo that went inside of her, and it's going to New Orleans and then from there to Savannah, Georgia. So coconut oil has become one of the most sought after edible oils in the United States now. Coconut oil and palm oil, which is produced in Malaysia, being the world's biggest. They have coconuts by the trillions of coconuts to maintain the shipments of 600-foot-long tankers constantly loading in Malaysia, coming to United States and other ports over the world. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, man, it's amazing what happens. And 2 other individuals message and say, definitely you're a legend, Mr. Raymond. Thanks for sharing that information. Really appreciate you being aware, and with great respect to you. We are past hour. Susan always makes accommodation, and I certainly appreciate it. Thank you too, sir. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And to our listeners.
One moment. Something important. We go into the skies now. Celestial system for all residents of the Cayman Islands to keep a lookout on December the 11th. There is a massive asteroid that's expected to pass by Earth at a very fairly close distance. And it's over 1,000 feet long, a massive asteroid. So it could be a potential hazard to Earth if it alters its orbiting activity and comes closer to Earth. That's on December the 11th, coming up.
All right, well, keep us posted. Maybe there are many who look to the heavens, some with prayer in their hearts. So, thank you, sir. So, the 11th of December, make a note of that. All right. Today's Wednesday, huh? Well, tomorrow we get there. What's on tomorrow morning, Miss Susan? The Buzz? She shakes her head. See, this lady has a lot on her plate. And then Friday, okay, just heads up. You have Mr. Art in the morning, but then you got to join us for the show Friday afternoon with Mr. Loxley. He's been diligently preparing, he told me, he may look like 18, but he feels more like he's 77. So, but tomorrow after for the Talk Today show, we got some stuff in store for you, and we want to give you a little teaser. They say beauty is an eye to behold, huh? Well, sometimes we look at the person and we look at the art. You'll see tomorrow what we're talking about. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. MedLab in Smith Road Plaza, your complete medical laboratory solution. Call 949-7331. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays.
voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
Shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.